All right, everybody, and welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive safe. Dave here, along with Blake, manning the boards. You've got me all by myself today. Sir Rick is on assignment, as usual, here on a Monday, sometimes out there trying to make things happen. Spin the content of the world up so that we come down with some great and fantastic news, information, and interviews. So here it is today on a Monday on Columbus Day. Some know it as Indigenous Peoples Day. However, just so you know, the federal holiday that allows everyone to be off today is Columbus Day, set aside in 1937 so that we can all celebrate the arrival of Columbus to the New World. And not knowing he did so in the interim. He actually thought he was in India. Hence, we called them Indians. So, but anyway, it is fun. It's exciting. And just so for my wife out there, she's off today. She works for the government, so she's actually got the day off today. So I'm going to say hi to you. All right, and look, let's talk one of that article. Did you see that article about the trucking family that was slain, California? Tragic. Really not sure. I read the article, and then I'm just dumbfounded by the results. This family was a trucking family, was taken from their work, taken out, even the child, and all killed. And had a feud with somebody for a long-standing time. That person tried to off themselves after he killed this family, and I don't even understand it all. None of it really truly makes sense. You know, why these children were hurt, why anybody was hurt. So here's the community pouring out to talk to and also offer their support up for the entire family. It's a developing story, and I guess it really has no positive ending at all. I also wanted to let y'all know that fuel prices have reacted accordingly to the market. It's back up over across the nation, about $5 a gallon, something above that. We were down all the way down to $4.86. With the release of information from OPEC that they are reducing the output of barrels by 2 million barrels a day, increasing, limiting supply with level demand. It's going to increase the price of fuel. We've seen that negatively impact all parts of the country. And then diesel has been directly affected, I think, because of that. Just in the futures alone, it's well over $5, and we had seen some genuine gains throughout the end of the summer, and then here we are seeing that the energy is hitting us. I did notice, Blake, this weekend, I just want to quickly mention, I went to get gasoline on Sunday. I had to run over to, Sam's to get some stuff, right? Mm-hmm. $2.89 a gallon for fuel. $2.89 a gallon. Everybody else in the country is paying a varied price in fuel. It is astounding the variations in price across the country on price of fuel. I paid $2.89. All right, it took about $75 to fill up my truck. Okay. And I have a 30-gallon tank. So, in 35, I have 32.5 gallon tank or something like that. It only cost me $70 basically to fill up my truck. Out in California, they're paying, I saw on the news on Friday, they're paying $7.97 a gallon. $7.97 a gallon.
No thanks.
I mean, that's over $5 difference a gallon in price for gasoline on the economy. And I'm telling you, it is varied across the country. They're seeing those high prices out west and up north. And then in the southern states and in other states, they're seeing a much lower price in fuel. And it has a lot to do with the ability to supply, refinement, and transportation. And I'm telling you, it is affecting all of us in a varied way, not like I've ever seen. I rarely have I ever seen the prices. Now, don't get me wrong, California's tax price per fuel is some of the highest in the country, but we're only talking like 40 cents. That doesn't even come close to the $5 variance. That doesn't even come close to the huge disparity between this number and that number. And it is shocking to see that. And at some point, it's going to have to level off. And I'm afraid that worst comes to worst, the leveling off means our prices here in my region are going to go up.
Absolutely. That's what I'm worried about.
I'm really happy that they're down to 289. I haven't seen that in a long time, but to see that price go up and that variance out there in California is astounding. And it is noteworthy to take notice of what's going on here across the country, especially as more information comes in from OPEC and energy and all of that going on due to this conflict going on overseas. It is still impacting us negatively here today, and it will continue to do so. I'll tell you what, we've got Adam Blanchard coming on here in a second. I can't wait for y'all to meet and listen to Adam Blanchard. He's coming on and talking about a particular case in history, one that has hit the courts, and I can't wait for him to get into the specifics of it. We'll talk to him. We'll have questions for him, and we'll have him right after this quick message. Hi, this is David Dover, also known as Drive Safe Dave. You are watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Safety is what you want to talk about, and safety is what you want to be every single day. That's what we're here for. We're here to make it better. The industry needs BCB Live so that it can find new and inventive ways to bring safety to the forefront for every single person out there on the road. You got to be prepared to stop, and when you look at that and you understand the situation that you're in, you got to know that it's going to change. You got to expect it to change, and you can't run those lights. You can watch BCB Live weekdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So what are you waiting for? Follow and subscribe to BCB Live today.
Sir Rick here, reminding you to tune in to our new segment called The Sledgehammer, featuring those who make a legal difference in our industry.
All right, and we are back here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We have Adam Blanchard, co-founder and CEO at Double Diamond Transport. Also, I want to make sure we mention that he is also a board member of the ATA, TCA, Texas Trucking Association, and much, much more. He has a voice. He has a voice here in trucking, and it is necessary to hear what's going on. All right, Adam, we brought you on to talk a little bit about this legal case and what it means and what it says about going on here in Texas in our industry. You want to lead us into what it's about?
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Dave, to you and your listeners for having me on. I always enjoy being on your show and everything y'all are doing for the industry. So great to be with you today. Look, we've got a case now that finally we're starting to see some relief here from the intermediate court level of these. I wouldn't say this is a nuclear verdict case, but certainly of the volume and magnitude of these cases and just the disproportionate jury rewards we're starting to see in some of these counties here in Texas. We've got a case where we have an oversized load coming out of the Midland Permian Basin area with some oil field equipment. Ends up missing the route, as most of you and your listeners know. When that occurs here with an oversized load in Texas, you got to get rerouted. So turns, tries to get back on track, and unfortunately hits a bridge, an overpass when he was doing that. Had some of the equipment fall off, and it injures somebody. Certainly in cases like this, as you and all your listeners know, we want to make these folks whole, but having a $7 million verdict is what the outcome was of this case. And this is exactly what we're seeing day in and day out on these truck accident claims here in Texas, and something that we've been working on at the state legislative level. And fortunately, we've got some good law firms similar to this case that are also fighting these in the court system, because it's going to take a two-pronged attack to start bringing these verdicts back down. And fortunately, we're starting to see some of these appellate courts here in Texas take notice of how exaggerated these verdicts are. And so in this case, they kick this back down for a new trial at the district court level, so that we can look at this again and have a more appropriate verdict given the circumstances.
Does this allow for us in these these middle courts? Does it allow for precedents to be created to overturn some of these and go back at them a little bit more frequently. If they're taking the stance on this, it means they're able to do that on others just as easily, correct?
Absolutely. So you have your state district courts, right, which is where we always start off, and then once that the case ends there, if it goes to a verdict, then you can appeal that to the intermediate court level, Court of Appeals, and there from there you can appeal it all the way up to the Texas Supreme Court. So it's really three levels here in Texas. Yes, the precedent that is set at the Court of Appeals level, that precedent applies to all of the district courts that fall underneath their veil. And then if you take it all the way up to the Texas Supreme Court, that's going to apply to not only all of the appellate courts that fall underneath them, but every court really in the state of Texas. So a great start here. I think what we're seeing here, Dave, is exactly what we sought to accomplish with the passage of House Bill 19 last legislative session. I mean, if you look at this lawsuit, they sued him not only for the negligence of the driver, but then also for the negligence of the company and their hiring practices, negligent entrustment, negligent per se. They even went as far as to include in their lawsuit that this was an enterprise or joint venture claim. I mean, so, this reptile theory where you throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I mean, this is a perfect case study on what that outcome looks like, because if you don't have a bad accident, then what they're going to do is they're going to use these other causes of action to distract the jury from focusing on what was the cause of the accident, who was at fault, and how do we make this person whole, which is what we should be focusing on. Instead, I'm sure what they did in this case, granted I wasn't in the courtroom when they tried it, but they made this case all about how, looking at all the maintenance history, every single driver, the history. We've got a really safe driver here from what I could tell from the facts. I mean, we've got somebody that has 45 years of experience, not a long history from what I could tell, especially given the court's decision here on safety issues. It was just an accident, and that's what we have insurance for. That's the reason that we want to make these people whole. But at the same time, a $7 million verdict is just so out of proportion with the reality of the facts here that these cases continue to happen day in and day out, despite continuing to focus on safety in our industry. I'm sure this company and this driver focused on safety as well. We end up with these nuclear verdicts that are just putting us out of business.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with the cost of the accident at all. This has everything to do with punitive damages, right? Punishing the either one for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think it's relevant to ask, from what I read in the case or from what I read in the article, the driver was actually knowledgeable in the rules. I mean, it wasn't like the driver was acting stupid or didn't understand. In fact, most of the questioning, the driver was very good at knowing what the rules were, what he was expected of him to do, and understood that he'd made a mistake and turned the wrong way, and didn't know it at the time. And then when he hit a bridge, he was unaware that it wouldn't clear at the time, and because of that, he'd had an accident. But we're talking about a $300,000 damage to a $7 million damage. So how did the jury come to figure out that, not the jury, but the appellate court come to figure out, hey, he really was a safe guy after 45 years of driving, and he really did know what he was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're seeing in so many of these cases, Dave, where, you've got to look at the facts. And look, the courts of appeals are always going to try to defer to the jury, right, to look and evaluate the facts and see what they think is right and fair. And I think it was very evident in this case that there wasn't gross negligence. I mean, there was not negligence by the driver, negligence by this company to such a degree that it justified a $5 million punitive damage award in this case. And, that's the problem that we have right now, I believe, at the trial level, is that we have juries being asked to look not only at what caused this accident, how do we make this person whole, assuming that the company's at fault, but we've got them looking at punitive damages too. And it's muddying the water, and it's creating a scenario where really, I think, putting juries in an unfair position right now to have to evaluate two things at the same time. And I think that's resulting in a lot of these verdicts that are coming down with disproportionately high punitive damages. Fortunately, in Texas, there are some caps that we already have in place related to punitive damages, but still at the same time, you've got to look at the facts and circumstances of the case and say, look, was this guy so willful? Was there such willful misconduct or such knowing disregard for what they were doing that it rises to the level of we need to punish them? Because I think it's important for people to understand the purpose of these punitive damages. Punitive damages are designed in order to punish companies that are doing things the wrong way to essentially get their attention and make them pay a price, so to speak, on the fact that, look, we can't have this continued conduct. And I don't think, and it was apparent here that the Court of Appeals didn't believe the evidence rose to that level. And so they overturned this case and this award and kicked it back down to the trial court to have them look at it again, which I think was very appropriate.
So, and as we look and examine this particular case, and we talk about it, this was prior to the ruling, House Bill 19, right? This is actually prior to that, so it doesn't fall into that. How does that separate from this here? What are the two things that is going to make this different? It's going to be in the opening part of the trial, right? It's going to make it change. So how does House Bill 19 much different than this case?
Yeah, I think the passage of House Bill 19, so House Bill 19 that we passed last legislative session only applies to lawsuits that were filed after September 1st of last year. And so we're still in the process of waiting to see, the material impact that this legislation is going to allow in the state of Texas. We're already starting to see more insurance companies come back in the market, which is good. But let's talk about House Bill 19. What would have differed in this case if they would have utilized the benefits of House Bill 19? What we would have done is we would have split this trial into two parts. And in the first part of the trial, we would have just focused on what was the cause of the accident, who was at fault, and how do we make this person whole. And assuming that the trucking company, which it appears here probably was negligent to a certain degree, right? If only when we determine that in the first phase of the trial and the trucking company is found to be at fault, then we're going to go to the second phase of the trial. And we're going to talk about, look, was this company adhering to the regulatory guidelines that are expected of companies in our industry? Were they doing a good job in their hiring of this individual? Was this individual that was driving, what did his track record look like? What was he doing? Did he have a history of issues like this, or was this just a one-off type situation where he made a mistake? And I think when we start doing that, we start getting these juries to focus on what they need to, instead of letting these trial lawyers utilize this reptile theory and coming into these lawsuits and muddying the water in the first phase of the trial, so to speak, and resulting, in my opinion, in these nuclear verdicts and verdicts very similar to this. And so I think, post House Bill 19, we're going to start seeing these types of verdicts come down. And I think it's going to give these appellate courts the ability as well to start reviewing them appropriately, especially within the facts, because they're going to get a record from both phases of the trial. All the testimony, that's all written down, and they're going to be able to see what the facts are and make sure that the jury awards are consistent with what the facts of the case are. And it in this case was obviously the Court of Appeals didn't believe that was the case, and I think we're going to see more of that going forward. But we've got to continue to press on this. We've got to continue to make sure that these trial lawyers can't continue to destroy our industry with this reptile theory, because look, the jury awards, they're conditioning people right now to believe that awards like this are appropriate. You see every other billboard out there, at least in San Antonio where I am, is, have you been hit by a big truck and we got a, $40 million award. I mean, people start thinking that that's normal, and it's not. I mean, this is not a normal environment and normal jury awards that hopefully we can start to get our hands around. Look, the doctors got it back when they passed all their medical malpractice reforms back in the early to mid 2000s. And look, it's our turn now. I mean, this is killing industry, and it's killing our industry specifically, and it's having a huge impact on the supply chain.
So I'm going to ask you, and I know you speak it, and I know you work at the TCA and the ATA, and I know you have a large voice there. How do we, as a group of individuals, go to the very lawyers that benefit from these types of deals and get them to pass law for tort reform? I mean, how do we get with our legislatures and to also go up against the big money that's following these, right? Because they're backed by financial corporations to go after these people.
Yeah, the whole system's broken, right? I mean, we've got trial lawyers right now that these lawsuits are being financed by third-party finance companies. Instead of investing in stocks and bonds, they're investing in lawsuits, and that's, I think, when very clearly that this situation's gotten out of control. And so, what we as an industry have to do is get coordinated. We need to be involved in the associations that support our industry, both at the state and federal level. Get involved with ATA, get involved with TCA at the federal level. We're working diligently up there. I've always been of the opinion if we had the ability to try these cases in federal court, that would have a hugely positive impact on the outcome. Not that it would have, frankly, any impact on people's ability to recover and make them whole if we are at fault, but it would provide a fair venue in which to try these cases, which is really the intention of House Bill 19. And so we're working on that at the federal level, amongst many other things. All of your listeners need to be involved in their state associations. ATA does a good job of having the heads of all our state associations get together and really coordinate on these issues. When we passed House Bill 19, I was at the ATA conference talking with the heads of other states associations on how we did it, together with John Esparza, our president and CEO. And look, we've got another legislative session coming up here in Texas. We're going to keep the fight up. We're already talking with the Keep Texas Trucking Coalition that consists of over 600 members, being various state associations and other companies throughout the state of Texas. And we've got to keep the fight up to ensure that we're continuing to provide a fair landscape for us to do business here in Texas, because I know earlier on your segment, you were talking about the drastic difference in fuel price. Look, you're going to start seeing a drastic landscape on insurance pricing and our ability to operate in each state, depending on the outcome of how we handle this situation. So everybody's involvement is important. Be aware of when elections come up and who's running, and make sure when your legislature, especially at the state level, is in session, that you're active and involved with that state association. Because I know in Texas here, we're going to need a lot of people in Austin testifying in front of these House and Senate committees and helping us go door to door with these elected officials and explain to them what we're experiencing every day, because they don't know that. And that's really was, I think, the secret sauce in our ability to get House Bill 19 passed next session. And we're going to be up there doing the same this year. So please stay. I know you and Rick will stay very involved, and look forward to working with you. And those, once there's a call to action, pick up the phone and call the folks that represent you. Get to know them on a personal level in your community so that we can reach out to them and help us fight this fight.
And Adam, in a much simpler terminology, and just so we can understand it as we're talking about this, tort reform is necessary for all of us to succeed in this industry. We genuinely need good tort reform, and we're not talking about balancing the power in our way. What we're talking about is level the playing field so that insurance rates, because insurance companies aren't going to do this for free, right? They're not going to pay these out. They're going to make money, and they're going to do what they can. But really, what'll happen is if we don't get these fair reforms in place, what will end up happening is it will price everybody out of the industry in order to have a fair market value to move goods and services across this country. Am I right? I mean, basically, it gets down to being able to put a truck on the road and not paying so high a price, because ultimately, guess who pays? I mean, people don't get it when everybody goes, oh, well, they were awarded 40. We all pay. All of us pay, right, Adam? Ultimately, in the end, every single one of us pays.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right. And look, we're just trying to have a fair playing field in the courtroom. I mean, this is a perfect example. When you got these trial lawyers muddy in the water with the reptile theory, that's not fair. I mean, we go into the courtroom with our arms tied behind our back right now. We're not asking for, some kind of a reform that is going to inhibit people's ability to be made whole if we're at fault. It's actually quite the opposite. We're asking for an ability to go in these courtrooms and try these cases in a fair way so that there's not disproportionately high verdicts, which, to your point, increase our interest rates or our insurance rates, excuse me. And then look, 88% of trucking companies have 5 or fewer trucks, Dave. And so look, it's those companies that are disproportionately impacted by the increase in these rates. And frankly, it's getting to the point where people say, look, it's not, we're 3 to 5% profit margin business, Dave. We're not Amazon, Google, Oracle. I mean, it's a hard business. And at a certain point, you just say, look, enough is enough. And people just leave the industry. And what's going to happen is there's not going to be enough trucks out there to transport the goods that we all use and need every day, from milk to medicine to just goods that we touch. Everything you touch has been on a truck, right? And so when you don't have enough people to transport those goods, then you're going to end up with a gallon of milk costing $12. You're going to have fuel costing $15. I mean, it trickles all the way down. It's like a snowball effect. And so unless we get these reforms passed, you're going to see fewer trucks in the industry. You're going to see fewer people entering the industry. And you're going to see an increase in costs across the board. And look, those of us that survive, that can pass those prices on, it's still going to be tight. I mean, people think that if prices for us go up, like on insurance, we immediately pass that on, and it's not the case. I mean, companies absorb it first, and then over time you can include that in your pricing. And I think that's really what's pushing a lot of these smaller operators out.
Do you feel, and as we talk to this, how I think Texas is going to become a testing ground, especially with this House Bill 19. And as we move forward to try to create more reform, a lot of people are waiting and watching in the wings, right? Really, what's going on here and how this works, right? I mean, this is genuinely a proving ground, right?
No question about it. I mean, look, I've told people all the time, no disrespect to a lot of other good conservative states out there, but I believe that good policy, especially pro-business policy, comes out of Texas, just like we see a lot of bad policy come out of California. And no disrespect to your viewers that are out in California. But look, I mean, they are doing everything they can to destroy the economy and destroy, frankly, our industry out there by elimination of the independent contractor model with AB5 and across the board. And so we have to make sure, I think we in the state of Texas have an obligation to step up in a united front in order to advance policy at the state legislative level that's going to have a positive impact on our industry and really set the playbook, right? I mean, the hardest thing is setting the playbook on, look, how do we do this? What does the bill need to look like? Where do we need to start our point of attack here? Let's go get it done here in Texas, and let's take that playbook and hand it off to these other states so that they have the same ability. And I tell people all the time, look, if you're working at the state level anywhere in the country and you look at House Bill 19, for instance, and you think that's something you want to advance, give me a call and I'll come up there and testify in support of that bill. I did it in Austin and I'll do it anywhere in the state. I think in Texas, we need to take a good long look at AB5 and making sure that policy doesn't, percolate down here to the state level, because the U.S. Supreme Court's obviously made it very clear that it's going to be a state-by-state fight. So we've got really two fights on our hand right now between this tort reform effort, but also our AB5 initiative. And so stay posted, but we're certainly going to take the fight to them here in Texas, and hopefully we see that start to permeate throughout the country. And look, there's other states that are doing it too, Florida, Louisiana, others, and we're looking at what they're doing. It's really a collaborative effort, and I look forward to being a part of it going forward.
And as we talk to everybody, Adam, I think it's important to know that their voice matters. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in the industry. You have an opportunity to work with your state association. And that's what Adam's saying. He's saying get involved. If you believe in this industry, if you work in this industry, you need to be a big part of this industry's success. You need to find a way to voice your opinion. It's okay to call your congressman. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in Ohio, or if you're in PA, or if you're in Virginia. It doesn't matter. You are entitled, and you should call your congressman, because the more they hear from you and the more they understand that their constituents are behind something like this, it makes a genuine impact, right, Adam?
No question about it. And really, before last session in Austin, I did not appreciate how impactful it was for me to pick up the phone and call my state representative or my state senator and ask them to please support House Bill 19. I just figured that, that was going to get, my phone call was going to get written down and shredded, right, or thrown in the trash, right, file 9. And it doesn't. Actually, they tally how many people have called. And I think that is something that we have as an industry that the trial lawyers do not. I mean, 1 in 14 jobs, I believe, in the state of Texas are in the transportation industry. And if we can get coordinated and everybody can be calling their state representative, everybody can be calling their state senator where we're advancing these legislative initiatives, that's powerful because they know their constituents, A, know about the issue, and B, care enough to call. And when that happens, they take note. And the more people call in, the more impactful it is. And whether you're down in Austin, at least here at the legislature in Austin, walking the halls and testifying or just calling, the more people that are calling, the more that's helping us when we're down there on the ground floor going by these offices and ask them to support these bills. So if it's a federal issue, pick up the phone and call your Congress member up there, your U.S. Senator, and don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's all public information out there. Call them and express your opinion, and do it at the state level when your state's advancing those issues too. I cannot tell you how impactful that is and how important it is for all of us to do that.
Yeah, I do appreciate it. You know, Adam, it does take it. This is a grassroots effort. I think we're all going to have to do something in order not only to educate ourselves, but to be involved in this, to make a change. Man, I appreciate all your help, all your knowledge, and all your ability to give to understanding and making this better for all of us here in Texas. Adam, if anybody wants to reach out to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Well, first you go to our website, DD is in double diamond -transport.com. But look, feel free to reach out to me. Our phone number is 210-314-6528. 210-314-6528. That'll get you into the office. Ask for Adam Blanchard. Happy to talk with anybody out there about these issues. And look, it's all of us in this fight together. And I'll be with you lockstep. And so reach out anytime. Look forward to working with you and all your listeners out there to keep fighting the good fight for our industry.
Thank you, Adam, very much. Before you get out of here, I always ask all our guests, every time before they leave, I ask them to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that?
I'd be happy to, Dave. Yes, my name is Adam Blanchard. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Double Diamond Transport. Happy to be with you guys today and happy to be on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right, thanks, Adam. Appreciate you a lot. We'll have you on again soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That's Adam. Man, I'm telling you, it is important to be involved. It is important to know what's going on. And it is important to find a way to be a part of the solution, because if you're not part of the solution, you're genuinely a part of the problem. And I want everybody here that's within this voice on this show and understanding how important it is to be safe. It also is important that you have to do something in order to make a change. It just doesn't happen. All right, everybody. We'll be back in just a second. When we do, we're going to bring on Buckle Up Bob. We're going to talk a little bit about the safety topic today. And I think he's got a couple of cool videos to show you. Be right back.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety. One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection, yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
All right, we're back here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive Safe Dave here, along with the great Buckle Up Bob in studio. And you know what, Bob, I had to give you a little bit of kudos here.
All right. Well, I appreciate the kudos. Anytime you can get kudos, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple of cool videos that aren't we got sent in. We got, and then I think one of them's thank you for CBS, I believe, is one of them. ABC. I'm sorry, ABC is one of them.
And the other one's Inside Edition.
And the other one is Inside Edition. A couple of quick videos. Let's watch them, Bob.
Yes.
Stunning video, that rollover crash, the cause, tailgating. So many of us have done it. Now ABC's Lauren Lister tells us why we should probably all give it up for good.
This car caught on camera careening out of control. The horrifying high-speed accident. Tonight, a graphic display of the dangers of tailgating. Watch again. The driver in the green Ford quickly reacts to avoid a mattress on the road, abruptly swerving, hitting the truck in the next lane, then those rocks on the left flipping across this Arizona interstate. The driver, 23-year-old Brianna Desaya of Texas, miraculously walks away unscathed. Her life saved because she was wearing her seatbelt. Arizona authorities say she was driving too closely to the vehicle in front of her and didn't have enough time to react to the mattress. So how long does it take to respond?
So a total of about a second and a half to see something react appropriately.
And a second and a half doesn't sound like much. Does it really make a difference?
It can. When you're traveling at high speeds, that second and a half means that you may have covered 100 feet or so in that time that your brain is processing this, and that's precious distance you've lost.
A rule of thumb when driving on the highway, give 3 seconds of following distance. To measure, find a fixed object like a telephone pole. When the car in front of you passes it, count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. If you get to the marker before 3, you're too close.
And police telling me tailgating doesn't really save you time, that road conditions and timing of traffic lights play a much greater role.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, that was the first video, and you know, it was really getting credence. We talked a lot about on BCB Live about, you know, tailgating. It's I don't want to separate from speeding because they seem to go hand in hand. But we've seen videos over the years and recently where the speed was way under the limit, but the tailgating was still going. So based on some of that video footage, I'd have to say the tailgating is probably the #1 pandemic or epidemic that's plaguing this industry when it comes to safety. And there's two main reasons, right? That one that you saw in the video is probably a false sense of security that we think we can stop. We're gonna recognize something and be able to stop in a moment's notice. And as that officer said. And simulators have shown drivers take about a second and a half just to identify the problem before they can react to anything. They're processing the potential issue up there.
Yeah, we're just talking about 1001. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about taking a long time at all. We're talking about blink your eye and you've pretty much cleared a moment. Mm-hmm. That's what a second is in time. It's a moment, and it only takes a moment, but it takes a moment for you to understand what's going on in front of you. That's all we're asking for. Blink. There you go. That's all we're talking about. And in that time frame, at 60, 70 miles an hour, Bob, you cover
100 feet per second at 65 miles per hour.
100 feet per second. You've covered a lot of territory in that time. So it's difficult to react accordingly. This driver tried to swerve out of the way, overcorrected, lost control of the vehicle.
And let's face it, the majority of the drivers out there are inexperienced with that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, many of them don't even know how to drive on snow and ice. I remember my dad taking me out when I was a kid. We went to an icy parking lot that was empty, and he made me get enough speed to where I had to slide and taught me how to turn into it and all that stuff. But you just don't get that. You know, nowadays we just get in the car and drive and then deal with situations as they come. We're not prepared.
Absolutely. We got to be genuinely more careful when we're out there and understand that being that close is what we're talking about. We're talking about not tailgating. Tailgating is against the law.
Yep.
It's aggressive driving.
Yes.
And the only reason
life-threatening.
And the only reason you're not speeding is because there's somebody in front of you.
That's right. And keep in mind, the speed when you're that close, speed almost doesn't matter, right? Because you're still going to hit that truck if you overcorrect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, the tailgating is a critical thing. Back off.
You got one more video?
Yes.
All right,
when it comes to automobile accidents, rear-end collisions account for the majority of them. 30% of accidents involving police are rear-enders, and 500,000 people die from them every year as a result. Megan Alexander has the latest tailgating accident that was caught on tape.
Tailgating danger caught on tape. Keep your eye on these two cars. It's tailgating in the extreme, and it's about to get very serious. Suddenly, the motorist in the front hits the brakes. The tailgater completely loses control. The SUV plows off the highway in Wisconsin. Here it is in slow motion. First the brake check, then the slip and slide. Cops identified the tailgater as a 42-year-old woman. She was unhurt, but given a citation. YouTube videos show how frustrating dealing with a tailgater can be. Check out the pickup following close behind in this video. The truck driver overtakes and makes a rude hand gesture as he goes by, but then he loses control and runs off the road. This video was shot by a driver who's tailgating way too close. Suddenly, the car in front stops. This guy has apparently rigged his windshield washers to deal with tailgaters. Robert Sinclair of the AAA.
How dangerous was that tailgater in Wisconsin?
That was an extremely dangerous maneuver. The tailgater was right up on the tail of the driver in front, and the driver up front had no out. Vehicles approaching from the right and no shoulder. It was a very difficult situation.
So, if you want to keep your cool, keep your distance.
This driver in Wisconsin does exactly what a lot of people do when someone's tailgating, and they touch the brakes. But in this case, the tailgater drove off the road. Every driver has had to deal with tailgaters. Now Les Trent has some important safety information all of us should know.
We've all been tempted to do it, hitting the brakes when someone's tailgating right behind you. But Jennifer Stockberger of Consumer Reports magazine says be warned, don't even think about it.
You saw how dramatic that video is, and what that person in front did was something a lot of people do when they see they're being tailgated.
Right.
They slam on the brakes. Tell us what was wrong about that.
Well, so the tailgating is wrong. There's no doubt about it. It's very risky. But you should never really use your motor vehicle for any sort of retaliation. He could just as easily have taken out the car next to him, the guy that was filming, but it would be horrible to find out that you were responsible for hurting someone else.
So you should never brake check.
You should never brake check.
At the magazine's Auto Test Center in Connecticut, Jennifer also advised against slowing down to annoy tailgaters.
That drives them to really want to make an evasive maneuver around you.
So if you shouldn't hit the brakes or slow down, what should you do in this dangerous situation?
So you look in the rearview mirror, you see someone's right on your butt, like the person behind us.
Right.
What do you do?
Don't let them push you to go faster than you want to be going. Just let them ride there. They're not going to ram into you. They're going to push you, and they're going to flash their high beams even, perhaps, to tell you to get out of the way. When you have an opportunity, a safe opportunity to move over, you signal, and you just get out of their way and let them go.
Good advice so this doesn't happen to you.
More than 500,000 people die from rear-end collisions every year in this country.
500,000 from rear end.
I think the numbers, I don't think that's the right number.
It doesn't seem very.
No, 50,000 people died on the highways last year. I don't. But I
there probably are 500,000 rear end accidents.
Yes, I agree.
That's probably what was meant to be said.
Yeah, I found it. But thank you to both news agencies for allowing us to see their videos. You know, I will tell you that in both Inside Edition and ABC, right? Thank you very much. Look, I just want you to know that it is dangerous. When you have a tailgater behind you, just move over. You don't want to use your vehicle as a retaliatory weapon. You don't want to. Your best job, your most brilliant move is get out of the way, right?
That's it. And what are you doing? We talk about this a lot, right? You're yielding that right away a little bit, right? You're getting over it, letting them go. Just let them go.
Yeah, you can't stop stupid.
You can't. And you can't fix it.
You can't fix it. But what you can do is lead by example out there each and every day. Find a way to be better than anybody else out there on the road by doing what you can to not only save yourself, but save them as well.
That's it. Every decision, drivers, that you make out there, it's important. It has to be first thought and only thought. Am I jeopardizing somebody's life with what I'm about to do? And when you're following that close, you are. And most of the cases, you're jeopardizing your own, right? Not to mention the others around you. And then when you do that brake check or you slow down, you're doing nothing but endangering your life and the life of the people behind you.
Absolutely. All righty, everybody. We're going to have, we thank you for coming on today. Thank you for joining BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We will see y'all again tomorrow at noon with some more fun and cool stuff right here. Not only about safety, because that's what we do safety, but we've got some other great information as well and guests coming on as well. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Bye, everybody.
Bye.